Every Monday since the Scotland District Road Rehabilitation Project has started, the MTW team, along with all of the consultants and the service providers, the Barbados Water Authority, MPC, the utility companies generally, hold meetings to be able to identify where there are challenges and to basically hold everybody accountable for the workflow on the project. This last Monday, what we decided to do was to come on the road, bring the entire technical team, and we continue those works today, Friday, to be able to have a visit going at each of the sites across the Scotland District so that we can, in a sense, work on the job and troubleshoot a number of issues as they have arisen over the course of the tour. We have had so far since this project started, it's a $230 million project. We have, up to the end of March, we would have spent about maybe $60 million, and we have completed a number of the projects under the Scotland District project. Places like Shorey Village have been completed. We've seen the completion of White Hill Phase 1 and Phase 2 just in the last few days. Vaughan's Road number 2 has also been completed. We have completed Chance Hill as well as Gemmett's Road in St. Lucie, and Animal Flower Cave as well in St. Lucie. The works that are to be done in the Scotland District obviously range across the rural parishes. We have spent a lot of time preparing preliminary designs as well as them moving to detailed design stage. At each of those stages, there is input from the utility companies to ensure that we are able to move light poles, that we are able, obviously, to be able to replace the water mains. And so that takes a lot of coordination between the utility companies, along with the contractors and the design consultants, in order to ensure that there is a smooth a program running across the Scotland districts. So presently, we have about 16 projects that are ongoing. In different levels, and we have a number of design works that have recently been completed, particularly in the St. Peter area. So areas like Mount Brevita, Sailor Gully, Orange Hill, the Four Roads area, Prospect Road, all of those areas have now been designed, and we are now in a position to basically work with the utilities to coordinate the start date for each of those various sections of work. Let me just say that obviously we will not start all of the sections in St. Peter at the same time, but the intention is now that we have the design work completed, that we will work with the utilities in order to roll out the coordinated efforts of those stretches of road. And a lot of the commuters have complained about for quite some time. Not on the Complant project, but I think it is worthy of mention. We have also assessed the area under our normal road rehabilitation program in the Crab Hill area. And this coming Wednesday, the intention is to start the reinstatement and certainly rehabilitation of a number of not just the main road in Crab Hill, but also a number of the side roads as well. There have been a lot of challenges in the Scotland District, and we keep reiterating to the public that one of the major challenges that we have encountered, obviously, has been the weather. We had a number of roads that would have been in the first phase of the program, which, because of heavy rains at least 2 years ago and certainly last year, we had to move up into the program. Places like Erie Hill, this Lanes Bridge where we are now, and many others. We had to reprioritize those roads because we could not leave the roads having broken away in the condition that they were. So despite having a very structured program initially, you will see that there are now a number of roads that have made their way into the priority section where design work had to be carried out. We had to quickly work with the utilities to be able to get their intervention to inform those designs. And we have had to shift the works program to be able to accommodate the interventions that were necessary in a number of those areas. As it relates to the St. Andrew area, there are several works going on in St. Andrew. I think St. Andrew perhaps was one of the most neglected communities. We've seen the completion of White Hill, which was well neglected for a long time. And I know that the residents there are happy that certainly this government has been able to focus on the ability for them to be able to gain access into their communities. It's not a road that people see when they're driving, traversing the country, but certainly the community of White Hill, I believe, is very relieved that they now have a proper road access way. We have been able to do some work in Coggins Hill, which is also ongoing at the moment. And in Moore's Bottom, just last year, we had some issues, first with slippage, and then we had issues in relation to concerns about a burst main, and we couldn't find the source of the burst at the time. We subsequently were able to realize that the mains needed to be replaced, and the project at Moore's Bottom has required us to not only replace the mains, but also to engage in having to do a lot of the mains replacement, as well as utility poles have had to be moved, put in a number of receptacles for drainage, a lot of retaining walls have gone in. So there has been some disruption in the Moore's Bottom area. I think there's some delays presently because the BWA has some challenges with their equipment, which they are working through, and hopefully we can start back that in the next few days. But generally, climate change has impacted the roadworks program, and it has impacted the Scotland District program. Is no different to any other program in terms of our reconstruction and rehabilitation of roads. Sometimes we have the very detailed plans in terms of what we want to roll out. But we may have trenches opened up in the Scotland District because of the issues that we have with the heavy rains. Obviously, it delays the ability of the contractors to be able to complete the works. Sometimes we have to pump off the water from the trenches when those trenches fill as well, so that work can start back after the area has dried out. So we've had a number of challenges which have slowed us down in some respects. And then, of course, it is trying to get the utility companies to increase their capacity to be able to respond to the amount of work that we are seeing across the country. I think it is fair to say that Barbados has really never seen this amount of road works in its history. We have not just the Scotland District program going on, but we also have the CAF roads that are ongoing in the St. Thomas area. You have the Shop Hill area that is currently being addressed. You have the Cane Garden to Bridgefield that is also ongoing. You also have areas like Prior Park that are also under the CAF project. So there's significant road works programs that are currently ongoing. The other thing is that in a lot of cases, the roads that are of concern to Barbadians, there are long roads. In many of the parishes, you cannot simply start roadworks without actually doing it in phases. So if you take the Rock Dundor project, for instance, we had to do the Rock Dundor project in 2 phases. If you take any of the other roads on the CAF, they are long roads, they are long connecting roads that the public obviously uses on a regular basis, but we have had to break up the works, not just because of issues of financing, but we've had to break it up so that we minimize the inconvenience as well to the persons in the residential areas who traverse those particular communities. So Barbadians will be aware that we would have done the phase 1 of the East Coast Road. That was done on the IDB project about 1.5 years ago. Those works have been completed, and we have now started on the complan to do phase 2 of those works. We have been in the process of changing out the drainage systems in that particular area. The drainage out there is very poor. The systems in relation to Barbados Water Authority, the mains have to be replaced in that area. Now, granted, there's not a lot of residences in those areas, but what you have is a lot of the water flows from the hillside, from the other communities upstream, and then it impacts obviously on that particular road. So one of the things that we've had to focus on is ensuring that the water is able to drain effectively into the sea, to be able to allow us not to be spending money on a new road and then having that road deteriorate rapidly over the course of time. We have also been able to address the issue of the utility poles as well, because in each of the districts where we have been engaging in works in the Scotland districts, we have tried to focus on improving the other infrastructure, and in particular street lighting. The public would be aware that we've said we're going to start, for instance, projects with solar lighting along Highway 2A. And while that is not under the Complant project, it is our intention to be able to acquire additional solar lights with a view to being able to light some of those communities where they're generally forgotten for the most part. But having improved the road access, we believe that we must also place lighting in those areas to allow, again, ease of access for the commuters and the residents. Ermyborn is not just an access for the eastern part of the island, but it also is a very main artery for persons who recreate on weekends. You have a lot of picnic and party goers on the east coast of the island. It is perhaps one of the most beautiful locations in the country on the eastern seaboard. And we feel it necessary to be able to complete this project to make sure that when our tour operators are traversing a number of these areas to show to the visitors, but also for average Barbadians being able to use these areas, that they can do so easily and smoothly on roads that have been upgraded and that have been improved satisfactorily, so that we don't have the complaints that we constantly hear that the roads are in a poor condition. We have taken an approach in the ministry that has, apart from focusing on residential communities, we've also focused on a number of our tourist attractions and the access to those tourist attractions, primarily because tourism is what pays our bills. And while whether we like it or not, it is our focus that we must have a dual approach to being able to do road improvements and road improvements to infrastructure. So we have focused a lot on the area, the places of interest where the tour operators have agitated as well and said, it is not a smooth road. We have a lot of challenges with the trees overhanging in the road, and we need the road improvements in order to be able to give the tourists as well a better flow through when they're going to the various sites. So Animal Flower Cave was one of the first ones. We're working on the roads in and around Cherry Tree Hill, the Morgan Lewis Windmill, and also in the area of Andromeda Gardens. But this is part of the focus of the ministry, because we cannot on the one hand only do residential roads and primary and major roads, but we also have a responsibility to spend some of the money improving the access to areas where our tourists and certainly locals frequent from time to time as well.